Friends, our story begins on a completely ordinary morning. Here we meet our hero, Sophie Birenbaum, a schoolgirl whose entire world revolves around theater. Today is the audition for her school musical, and while practicing, she accidentally burns herself with a curling iron. Her mother, Elizabeth, laughs and tells her that getting this focused on practice is a good thing, but maybe she should stop curling her hair while singing. Sophie has one big fear sitting in the back of her mind. The play is Waitress, and the lead character is Jenna. Sophie is convinced that Mallory is going to get that role, while she is only hoping to play Dawn, the hero's funny best friend. At home, her dad Ted and her two younger brothers, Ethan and Caleb, are creating their usual chaos. After Ted leaves, Elizabeth tells her daughter that she is beautiful, talented, and completely ready. And now comes the moment that connects directly to the name of the movie. Elizabeth asks Sophie if she is allowed to say good luck. Sophie explains the old theater rule that you are never supposed to say that, and instead you say, break a leg. Her mom jokes that she would actually feel terrible if Sophie broke her leg, and Sophie laughs and says she will be fine. Friends, this tiny joke is about to become one of the heaviest lines in the entire story. Sophie heads to school with her best friend Carolyn. The auditions begin, and the production director, M.S. Parker, enters the room. After hearing Mallory perform, almost everyone in the hall assumes the lead role already belongs to her. On the callback list, Mallory's name appears for Jenna, Jack is called back for Dr. Pomatter, and when the two names for Dawn are announced, one of them is Sophie Birenbaum. And at that exact moment, the movie takes us to a hospital waiting area where Elizabeth and Ted are sitting together. Elizabeth Birenbaum's name is called, and a woman sitting nearby quietly tells her, "Good luck, just a little while ago." Those same words were a joke inside their home, and now they are echoing through a hospital. Meanwhile, Ms. Parker is explaining Jenna's character to the students. She is a waitress in a small town who makes incredible pies because her mother taught her how to bake before she passed away, and now Jenna herself is pregnant. This makes it clear that the role Sophie is about to receive will slowly begin reflecting parts of her own life. Just before the callback, Sophie accidentally receives a call from her dad, and this time there is nothing funny on the other end. Her parents are speaking in heavy voices about when they should tell the kids, repeatedly saying that they still cannot believe it. Guess what happened? Sophie suddenly feels like the ground has disappeared beneath her feet. She wants to go home, but at that exact moment, her name is called. Mallory stops her, walks her through a breathing exercise, and Sophie finally goes inside and performs her callback. Back at home, Ted takes the boys into another room because the parents need to speak with them. Once she's alone, Sophie calls Carolyn and finally says out loud the truth at the center of this entire story. Her mother's cancer has returned. Sophie says she does not want anyone else knowing about it. Then her voice begins to crack as she admits that her parents did not even tell her they were going to the hospital that day. After ending the call, she breaks down in tears. A few days later, the cast list is posted. Mallory talks to Sophie in a slightly condescending way, telling her that she does not need to push herself because she is only a sophomore. And now comes the big twist. Sophie did not get Dawn. She got the lead role in the entire show, Jenna. The exact role she had been saying that morning, she had absolutely no chance of getting. When the news reaches home, the whole family goes out for dinner. While they are eating, a woman they know walks over to the table and expresses her sympathy to Elizabeth. And this is when they realize the news has already started spreading. Sophie's expression immediately changes. On the way home, Sophie quietly says that maybe she should not do the show anymore. Elizabeth immediately refuses to let her give it up. She tells Sophie that she could never forget her daughter's very first solo all the way back at her second grade concert. Friends, this tiny memory is going to return near the end of the movie and hit incredibly hard. Sophie then asks if they are still going to Crane House, and without hesitation, her mom says absolutely. Their family always goes to the beach. Rehearsals begin, and Sophie gets to know Jack, who is playing Dr. Pomatter, the doctor Jenna falls in love with. Jack jokingly tells her that the two of them are going to have quite a lot to do together on stage, and from that moment, a different kind of spark begins forming between them. But trouble arrives during the very first week. Everyone else's southern accent sounds natural, while Sophie feels like hers sounds terrible. She tells her mom that maybe Ms. Parker made a mistake by casting her. And now comes one of the sweetest parts of the entire movie, the way a mother helps her daughter. Elizabeth takes Sophie outside and walks into a store speaking in a southern accent, pretending that the two of them are from Georgia, forcing Sophie to answer in the same accent. Later, at a pizza place, Elizabeth keeps the accent going and asks for buttermilk biscuits and sweet tea, only for the employee to remind her that they are standing inside a pizza restaurant. And somewhere in the middle of all that laughter, something changes. Sophie begins delivering her lines in the same Southern accent, but this time her voice finally has what was missing before. She looks at her mom and realizes that Ms. Parker did not make a mistake after all. During rehearsal, Ms. Parker says something that becomes the artistic heart of the entire film. Forget the notes. She wants Sophie to make mistakes, because that is where something real comes from. Meanwhile, Carolyn says she only has one line in the play and will basically stay in the shadows. It is clear that the two friends are starting to move in different directions. At the deli, Sophie and her mom tease each other about driving. Elizabeth says Sophie should learn how to drive, while Sophie jokes that she will just hire a handsome chauffeur. Her mom replies that even after marrying the chauffeur, Sophie will still drive better, because Elizabeth is the one who taught her. And friends, this is the moment when the movie finally shows its true face. As they leave, Sophie says the songs are really difficult, and her mom reminds her that she still has time. But the very next moment, Elizabeth suddenly feels sick and throws up. She keeps telling her daughter not to look, please don't look. In a single second, all the laughter turns into silence. Later that day, a conversation between Sophie's parents reveals the hardest truth yet. Elizabeth says the illness is spreading faster than she expected, and she may only have until late July or August. The doctor has also told her not to travel, but she insists they are still going to the beach house because she already promised Sophie. Then they make a decision that will hurt the most later. They will not tell the kids yet. After the show, everyone will go to Crane House, and that is where they will tell them the full truth. Elizabeth's reason is simple. Her daughter still has one thing making her happy, and she does not want to take that away too. The next day, Grandpa Dale and Grandma Linda arrive. Everyone at home calls Linda Lala, and her arrival immediately brings tension into the house. Linda keeps pushing Elizabeth to go to a major hospital whose cancer team is among the top 3 in the country. She claims she knows a doctor there, but moments later admits that she has never actually met him. Meanwhile, during rehearsal, Jenna and Dr. Pomatter's kiss is being blocked. Ms. Parker tells Sophie that Jenna should feel like she has just made a huge mistake in that moment, so she should not be smiling so much. Embarrassed, Sophie says it was simply an acting choice. And right there, it becomes clear that the smile was not acting at all. And now comes the friendship blow. A girl casually reveals that she went on a long hike with Carolyn after school, even though Carolyn had told Sophie she had a doctor's appointment. The truth comes out, Carolyn quit the show, and Sophie did not even know. Sophie coldly tells her that she does not need to bother driving her home anymore. That same day, Sophie asks for extra rehearsals. Weeks later, Ms. Parker tells her that her biggest song still is not where it needs to be. Then she gives Sophie an assignment that becomes the heart of the movie. Ask her mother what being pregnant felt like, so her performance can come from a real place. Back at home, Linda asks Elizabeth if she should talk to Sophie about the doctor's situation, but Elizabeth clearly says no. Then, exhausted, she asks her mother to simply sit beside her and read her a book. In that one moment, all their old arguments are pushed aside. When Sophie gets home, she asks her mother what it felt like when she was pregnant with her. For a moment, Elizabeth panics and wonders if Sophie might be pregnant, but then she opens up. She says she felt sick almost all the time, and she played Fleetwood Mac around the house so her daughter would grow up with good taste in music. People used to say that women who felt that sick during pregnancy would have babies with thick hair. And sure enough, Sophie was born with thick, dark hair. Friends, remember that Fleetwood Mac detail. And then comes the scene that hurts even more later. Elizabeth shows Sophie one of her old maternity dresses and asks if she could wear it in the show, since Jenna wears something similar. Sophie hesitates and says no, explaining that she does not decide the costumes. Elizabeth smiles and says that is okay, but her eyes seem to say something else. At lunch that day, Ted brings up plans for Mother's Day, and Sophie says she has rehearsal that day. Guess what happens? Linda suddenly loses her temper and says the cast cannot possibly be that important. Then she loudly says the words no one at that table has said yet. Sophie's mother is sick, and none of this is okay. Sophie goes completely silent. Later, Elizabeth makes her decision clear. She says she cannot spend whatever time she has left explaining every choice she makes, and tells her mother that she has to leave. That same night, things finally begin to soften between Sophie and Carolyn. Carolyn apologizes and says something that defines real friendship. No matter what happens, she wants to keep making space for Sophie in her life. Then she mentions a get-together with some friends, and Sophie asks if there will be drinks there. That night, Sophie steps outside her usual world for the first time. Then Carolyn rushes over in a panic and says Sophie's dad is looking for her, because Ted thought she was staying at Carolyn's house. Carolyn's friend Aaron, who did not drink anything, drives them back before it gets too late. In the car, Sophie claims her phone was on silent, but Ted asks what that smell is. Sophie pretends she has no idea. Mother's Day arrives and the deli is packed. One customer gets upset about his food and speaks rudely to Ted's family. Elizabeth apologizes at first, but then loses patience and tells the man to take every kale wrap they have, declaring that they are done making wraps because this is a deli. The whole staff starts applauding. But just seconds after that happy moment comes the biggest shock. Elizabeth can no longer stay on her feet and collapses. Back home, Sophie asks what the doctor said, and Elizabeth tells her that she is very sick. Ted then says the Crane House trip is canceled, and then comes the line that completely breaks Sophie inside. Her mom will not be able to come watch the show because there will be too many people there. Elizabeth tries to comfort her, saying the show is recorded, and maybe Sophie can sing for her at home, like a small living room performance. Sophie only says that it is not the same. The next day, Ms. Parker sees how broken Sophie looks and tells her something that stays with her. She chose Sophie because she saw something in her callback, something that cannot be taught. Sophie already has it, she just needs to remember where she put it. That night, the cast celebrates Tech Night, and everyone writes their names on the wall. Sophie makes an excuse to step outside, hoping she might run into Jack, but instead, she sees something she never expected. Jack has just kissed Mallory. Later in the car, Jack brings up practicing again, and this time Sophie stands her ground. She tells him straight out that she thinks he only does plays so he can kiss every girl. Then comes the line that shows how much Sophie has changed. She is done kissing the wrong guys. The next day is dress rehearsal, and something has been arranged behind the scenes without Sophie knowing. Ms. Parker has set up a live stream for Elizabeth so she can watch her daughter from home, and Elizabeth makes sure Sophie does not find out. But that day, rehearsal falls apart, and even the cast admits the run-through was terrible. And then two shocks hit Sophie. First, Jack comes over and says he is sorry because he has heard that her mom is very sick. That means the secret Sophie has hidden for months has now spread through the entire cast. The second comes when someone says that if they had known Sophie's mom was watching, they would not have performed so badly. With that one sentence, Sophie understands everything. The lights come on, the song begins, and Sophie breaks down halfway through. Ms. Parker comforts her and sends her home so she can come back fresh for opening night. At home, Sophie and her mom finally face each other. Elizabeth explains that she only wanted to watch her daughter and did not want to give her false hope. Sophie yells that her mom could have told her because she is not a little kid anymore. And now, friends, comes the heaviest part of the movie. Sophie asks why her mom never told her, and Elizabeth says she wanted to fight and tried everything she could. Sophie says that if she had known, she would not have spent so much time on the show. Her mom says Sophie was so happy that she did not want to take that happiness away. Then Sophie says something that hits hard. She should have been allowed to choose. And all her pain finally comes out. She says she is not good enough, that she did not even want to be around the house, and that everything with Carolyn became weird. Then Elizabeth stops. She apologizes for not telling her and admits that she does not know how to handle any of this either. Sophie does not stop her. She only tells her to say it. And her mom finally says the words that carry the heaviest truth in the entire movie. She says she is not going to make it. With that one sentence, Sophie's whole world falls apart. The next morning, Ted sits down with his daughter. He says everything happening is unfair to all of them, and that everything her mom is doing is only meant to reduce the pain, even though he does not believe the pain can really be reduced. He says he wishes they could skip ahead to the part where Sophie has already forgiven them. Then he tells her that whenever he looks at his daughter, all he sees is how much he loves her, and that no matter what happens, he will be beside her through every part of it. That same day, Carolyn arrives with a gift and says that just because she is no longer in the play does not mean their old tradition has to end. The two raise a toast to a good show. Show night arrives and the entire cast is ready. Then Sophie makes a decision almost no theater kid could easily make. She asks Mallory if she can play Jenna and whether Audrey knows Dawn's role. Mallory is stunned. Sophie simply says she has to go, and Mallory would probably do it better anyway. Then Sophie leaves the theater. When she gets home, she sits beside her mom and admits that she is really scared. Elizabeth says she is scared too. Sophie asks who will take care of them if they are both scared, and Elizabeth brings back their old joke, saying Sophie's handsome chauffeur husband will. Sophie asks what happens if that chauffeur never exists, and her mom smiles and says, then they will have to take care of themselves. Friends, that light-hearted deli joke has now become a mother's final lesson. Sophie says she does not want to waste another minute away from her mom, and that is when the second grade concert comes back. Elizabeth explains that she cried that day because she had spent years searching for something that truly lit a fire inside her, while her daughter had found it at just 7 years old. She cried because in that moment she knew that no matter what happened, Sophie could always return to that light and somehow find her way back. Crying, Sophie says she does not want to do the show without her mom. In fact, she does not want to do anything without her. Elizabeth tells her that she will never truly be without her. And when Sophie says she feels sorry that her mom never found the thing that lit that fire inside her, Elizabeth tells her she actually did. After that, Elizabeth calls her own mother. She tells Linda that she needs to stay in Sophie's life and in the lives of all 3 children, but she has to listen to her granddaughter. Linda promises she will and asks if she can tell the kids stories about Elizabeth. Elizabeth says Linda is the one who has all the stories. Then she asks if Linda could come to closing night tomorrow, because it would mean so much to Sophie. Linda's answer melts away all the tension in the family. She asks if tonight would work instead, because she's already there. And now comes the climax. Sophie drives herself back to the theater. Mallory stops her and admits that she purposely delayed the start of the show because she knew Sophie would come back. Besides, she says she actually likes playing Dawn better. Then someone notices Sophie's dress and compliments her on it. The piano begins, and Sophie steps onto the stage to perform the hardest solo of the show, the same song she has struggled with for weeks. But this time, she does not have to think about the notes. She only has the truth. She pours all of her pain into that song. In the end, the movie closes with the same Fleetwood Mac song her mother talked about earlier. The music Elizabeth once played for her daughter before she was even born returns in the final moments of their story as Sophie and her mom hold each other tightly. Friends, this movie leaves us with something powerful. Sometimes we hide the truth from the people we love because we think it will protect them from pain, but hiding the truth does not make the pain smaller. It only takes away some of the time they could have spent together. And the second lesson is to hold on to whatever lights that fire inside you. Because when life takes almost everything away, that light may be the one thing that helps you stand back up. Now tell me, if you were Sophie, would you have left the stage that night and gone home, or stayed and finished the show? Let me know in the comments.